questions for chapter 11? Let me make my screen. There we go. Okay, for chapter 11, your first question in your packet, that's what you're doing today, is your packet. Only the packet today. The first one says, describe Mac using one character trait. Provide text-based evidence. So that means just make sure you show proof, right, from the story. So you're going to describe Mac. You're going to tell me what he's like by using one character trait. Only one word to describe him. So remember, there's a I'll add it in your assignment. I'll add you a list of character traits. That way it can help you. But is Mac mean, and why? Or maybe is he brave? Why is he brave? Remember, you're showing me proof from the story. Is he angry right now? And if he is, tell me why. Give me proof from the story. So that's how you're going to answer that first question. The next question in your chapter 11 packet asks you, why were soldiers throwing rocks and shooting handguns into the sky? So now we know something that's going to happen. The soldiers are going to throw rocks and shoot little handguns, not machine guns, not big bombs, just little shooting handguns and rocks. That sounds a little bit silly to me, doesn't it? I wonder what we're going to read about in chapter 11, but they're throwing rocks. The question's asking you why. So a good way to answer that one is the text states that soldiers were throwing rocks and shooting handguns into the sky because, and then your answer. Remember, a really easy way to make a good, smart sentence is to just say the question right back into your answer. Why were soldiers throwing rocks? The text states that soldiers were throwing rocks because, super easy. That's a good one. That's a good question right there where you can show off how good you are at writing those sentences. Your next question is, how did Mac protect Danny? Oh, so now we know he's going to protect Danny. That's really good. So how did he do that? You're going to tell me. You can start it this way. Very easy way. Mac protected Danny by, and then however he did it. That's a really easy answer, or a really easy sentence to answer. Next, how did Danny take care of Mac? So now we know Mac protected Danny, but then Danny took care of Mac. That's interesting. I can't wait to read that in the chapter. So now you're going to tell me how. An easy way to start that sentence is, Danny took care of Mac by, and then whatever you're going to answer. That one's an easy one also. And that's it for chapter 11 questions. So now we can get into the story. Are you ready? Thumbs up if you're ready to read chapter 11. I see one thumb, another, all 3 thumbs. All right, awesome. Let's get those going. I have my chapter right here. Okay, we're starting. Thank you for being on mute. Thank you so much. Remember, if you need to stop me while I'm reading, if you hear a word maybe you don't understand or you're a little lost, raise your hand, use your signal right at your camera. That way I can see it clearly, and I'll stop and I'll ask you to come off mute. Go ahead, Allison. Thank you. Did you have a question? No, you're just raising your hand? Okay, awesome. So remember, if you do need to stop me, raise your hand right up at the top, and then I'll stop reading and we can talk about whatever you need. So let's get started. Chapter 11. Remember, in chapter 10, right now what just happened was they were talking at the base and another attack happened. Bombs everywhere. So let's start chapter 11. In an instant, a bomb exploded on the runway. I'm going to stop real quick. The runway is that like road where the planes take off from. So that right there on that road where the planes drive off of to get into the sky, that exploded. A man disappeared in a blaze of flames and black smoke. Danny and Mac and both guards hit the ground hard. Mac came over and shielded Danny's head and shoulders with his body. That's one way he protected him. He shielded him with his body, kind of like he covered him up. That way nothing would harm Danny down there. He shielded him with his body. Wait, that's one of the answers, right? He waited for a lull, that means a stop. He waited for a stop, he waited for a lull in the explosion, and then scrambled to his feet. He grabbed Danny's hand, yanking him up. "We need to get out of here," he shouted to the guards. "We need to find cover." Turning to Danny, Mac yelled, "Come on." Mac held Danny's hand tight as they ran. "Keep your head down." But where could they go? Bombs were exploding all around them. Boom! A truck exploded. Boom! 3 men fell to the ground. A plane flew in low. A spray of bullets ripped a car apart. Soldiers were crouched behind bushes and under cars. Some had small handguns and were firing uselessly into the sky. One soldier threw rocks. Danny couldn't believe it. Did they really think that would stop the planes? Rocks? But he understood too. There was nothing they could do. I'm going to stop right there. So that was another question, right? They're shooting little guns and throwing rocks. What? But they're doing that because they don't have anything else to do. They don't have big machine guns with them. They can't go in their planes and bomb the other planes because everything's getting blown up around them. All they have are their little handguns and some rocks. So that's what they're using. It might seem useless, but it's the only thing they can do. Mac dragged Danny behind what was left of a huge airplane hangar. Through the enormous holes in the walls, Danny saw U.S. bomber planes, shattered and burning. So our planes had been blown up. They're shattered, they're burning, useless. In the lawn behind the hangars, bombs had blown craters into the grass. So big holes back there. Mac pushed Danny into one and then jumped in after him. So they've jumped into one of the craters right now, into a hole. "Get down," Mac said. Danny curled up against the dirt wall, and Mac crouched next to him, shielding Danny with his body again. Men were shouting all around them. "He's hit! Watch out! We need help! They're coming in low!" Danny pressed his head against the side of the hole. Mac held him tight. "It will be over soon," Mac said. But the planes kept coming. Danny peered up, knowing he'd never forget the sight of those planes. They were small and gray, like killer birds. A whistling sound cut through the air. Kaboom! Dirt, rocks, metal rained down on them. Something sharp stabbed Danny in the calf. I'm going to stop real quick. The calf is the back part of your leg. So something really sharp stabbed him there. He reached down and pulled out a small piece of metal. That's what stabbed him. Tossed it behind him. Danny closed his eyes tight, praying for the attack to please stop. Suddenly, he thought of Finn. He could almost feel that Finn was with him there, telling him to be brave. The feeling was so powerful, it filled Danny's entire body. Be brave. And finally, the thundering stopped. The attack was over. The roar of the planes was now replaced by the shouts of men. So instead of hearing all the planes around them shooting, now they just hear men yelling. Stop real quick. Yes, Diego, go ahead and come off mute.
Was it a battle or a war?
Right now it's a battle because they just keep getting attacked. Later on, yes, it does turn into a war when the U.S. fights back. Good question. So yes, it stopped right now. All the bombs stopped. They don't hear planes and shooting anymore. Right now, all they hear is men screaming, shouts of men. Danny turned and Mac fell back. his eyes dazed. I'm hit, he rasped. My back. I think it's bad. Danny looked at Mac's back. His stomach heaved. It means like when you feel like you have to throw up. His stomach heaved as he saw a jagged wound and more blood than he had ever seen. Mac would not last long bleeding like this. A blonde soldier appeared above the crater. His glasses were cracked and he had a gash on his face. Everyone all right here? He's bleeding bad, sir, Danny said. The soldier shouted for help, and within seconds, he and another man were helping Danny lift Mac from the crater. Mac winced in pain as they pulled him onto the grass and laid him on his side. The soldier pressed against the wound with his bare hand, trying to slow the bleeding. Hang on, sir, the blonde soldier said. Help is on the way. But Danny didn't see any help. Are there ambulances? Mac asked. All the ambulances are out, sir. Mac nodded grimly. His jaw clenched and his face was very pale. What about that car? Danny asked, pointing to a red Studebaker parked next to the hangar. That's a very fancy car. That belongs to our colonel, who's a leader of one of the armies, right? That belongs to our colonel, the soldier said. Danny leapt up and rushed to the car. Wait! The soldier shouted, but Danny ignored him. The car had been spared any hits. That means it was spared. None happened. It was barely hit. It looks brand new. The car was spared any hits. It barely even had a scratch. Danny lifted the hood of the car and studied the engine. He easily found the 2 ignition wires Earl had shown him. You never know when you need to get somewhere quick, Earl had said with a smile. Remember, Earl was the leader of the gang back in New York City who taught Danny how to do things that weren't very good. So, as usual, Earl had been right. Danny carefully touched the wires together. So he got the wires and made a spark. The engine sputtered to life. He turned the car on without a key. Danny flung open the door and jumped inside. He drove the car around the holes and chunks of glass and metal, pulling up as close as possible to where Mac lay. Here's a picture of that scene right there. Can you see it? That's him in the car. That's Mac lying on the floor down there, injured, and those soldiers around him. All right. The blonde soldier looked really worried, but Mac managed a smile. Good work, kid, he said. I won't ask where you learned how to do that, but I'm darned glad you did. Danny and the soldiers helped Mac into the car. Go, the blonde soldier said. The hospital is half a mile down on the right. Wait, Mac said. There are other guys who need help. We are not leaving until the car is full. 5 minutes later, there were 2 more wounded men in the car. One man had so much blood on his face that Danny couldn't tell what he looked like. The other was holding onto his leg like it might fall off. Danny drove as fast as he could to the hospital. The road was cratered and filled with burned wreckage, holes everywhere. Once he had to get out and drag a huge piece of plane out of the road. But finally he made it. When they got to the hospital entrance, Danny blared the horn, beep, beep, signaling for help. While they waited for help, Danny turned and looked at Mac. Mac's eyes were fluttering. That means he's really hurt right now and he can't even focus anymore. His eyes are fluttering everywhere. He can't stay focused. He's growing very weak. Danny wasn't sure what to do. And then he reached over and grabbed Mac's hand. Mac, he said. What? Mac gasped. He could only think of one thing to say. I'll make my ma have dinner with you, Danny said, when you get better. Danny saw a flicker of a smile across Mac's face. Outside the car, 2 orderlies rushed out with a stretcher. A stretcher is that little bed they use to carry a body. Like if you're hurt, they have to put you on it so you don't have to walk and they carry you. So they came out of the hospital with one of those. Behind were 2 nurses. One of them was Ma. And that's it for chapter 11. Do we have any questions about what happened here? I'm super glad that they saw Ma finally, so now they know she's safe. They just seen her. I bet you that felt really good. I bet you when Danny looked back and saw the 2 nurses and saw Ma, he was like, oh, Ma. Finally, he gets to see her face. I bet that was a really good feeling. What questions do we have about this chapter? Any questions? Remember, use your signal. That way I can see who's going to talk next. No? How do you feel about this chapter, Diego?
I feel that it's scary.
Yeah, it is a little bit scary because we heard about some men getting really hurt in this chapter. Yeah, that's a good feeling to feel right now. Yes, throughout the chapter, it was getting a little intense. But towards the end, I feel a little relieved. I'm really happy that they got to see Ma. They know she's safe and she's right there when they need her the most, right? When Danny's just been through something crazy, Mac is hurt, Ma came right at the perfect time, I feel like. Do you have any questions over the packet questions? Go ahead, Oralia.
I mean, I didn't have a question for the packet from the story.
Okay.
I'm sad that the people had got hurt by the plane.
Yeah, that means you have a big heart. Yes, of course. Yeah, during that chapter, it was really wild. It was a lot of feelings, right? First, scared because they were under attack again. Then, like panicky because they had to go hide. Then, yes, sad as you see people around you getting injured, other soldiers, maybe even mad at the attackers, at the Japanese bombers, right? Mad and angry, and then worried once all the attacks stopped, because now you see people who are injured and you're like, oh no, how do I help them? And then brave, like Danny, right? Because instead of just staying scared, he thought of something to do. He went straight to action. He's like, get the car, let's go, right? So brave and then relieved when you see Ma and the nurses like, oh, we're going to be taken care of now, right? Awesome. Anybody else? Any feelings or thoughts about this chapter? A lot of emotions in this chapter. No? All right, that's fine then. Thank you for joining our read aloud. Remember, today's assignment, I'm going to post the assignment first, and this video will save the read aloud. So if you need to watch it again to hear parts of the story, it's going to be there where all the posts go. Your only assignment today is to do those packet questions. That's your job for today. And then on Thursday, you will get an exit ticket quiz like normal. So today, just the packet questions, and you're going to submit them on the assignment. I'll have that up right after this video. Sound good? Yes? All right, internet high five. All right, and I'm going to give you guys a big hug too, because this chapter at the end made me feel real good to see Ma, so my heart is full right now. Now we can end this call, that way you can get to your work. Remember, you need to press the red hang up button or else you'll be on talking by yourself. I'll see you later.